and welcome to Questlog. I'm Helene Hannon. I'm here with
Tim Hannon.
Joseph Leake.
So today we are talking about the wonderful adventure that is post-Christmas gaming.
Yes. Post-Christmas gaming.
So most recently I was playing Suikoden 5 and then Jade Cocoon on PS2 and PS1 respectively. Joseph has been playing for the first time Final Fantasy VI, and it is so hard to not spoil anything.
So
I am sending regular updates to Tim and Helene, text messages, pictures of the screen of my progress. And every time I advance a little further in the story, there's more we can talk about. But they are doing a really impressive job of not giving away any spoilers for me, because this is my first time playing what I do understand to be one of the absolute classics of the genre. And I'm extremely excited about it. And we've talked in previous episodes about my journey into JRPGs, which is a genre I did not play growing up. So thanks to my eloquent and attractive co-hosts and wonderful and kind, I now have on the Switch Final Fantasy 1 through 6. It was their Christmas present for me, and have been thoroughly enjoying post-Christmas video gaming with Final Fantasy 6, experiencing this for the first time, what I missed out on, all these years ago. And so too have my children, who are all between the ages of 7 and 10. And at first I thought, this is something I'll just play when they're, asleep, or, like we have a custom of playing a lot of games together. They like to watch and get engaged in the story together. But I didn't necessarily assume they would watch this. I thought I'll just play it at random times. But all it took was them seeing the opening sequence and the opening storyline for them to be absolutely hooked, and they solicited from me promises not to play without them. So I can grind without them, but I cannot advance the story unless they are awake and able to watch with me, because to my surprise and delight, they are just completely invested in the characters and story of this. How old is that game now? When did that come out? Mid to late 90s?
94?
94, right. I mean, they have cheered for the characters. They have, Tara says, I have no family, no friends. And I think she's starting to form, family and friends with her. But one of my sons said passionately, yes, you do, at the screen. Like, people care about you. I mean, so my kids are totally into this, and so am I. So that's been a lot of my and my kids' post-Christmas gaming pleasure. That and Princess Peach Showtime. A very different genre.
Also a
delight.
Helene and I got for each other Octopath Traveler 0. I had played Octopath Traveler 1 and some of 2. Helene played all of 2 and some of 1. And so we're like, oh yeah, let's get into this. There's town building, there's all these small little quests, different characters to get. And I was watching the trailer, and our 10-year-old daughter was like, oh, that sounds great, I want to play that too. And I'm like, yeah, sure, you can totally play it. And then Helene reminded me, it gets dark.
very dark.
It gets pretty dark.
And pretty quickly.
Yes. And one of the things I've noticed while playing through it that I'd forgotten was about how dark the mythology is. That the deeper and deeper you get into the world, the worse things are. There's summoning demons, and everyone is suspect. Everyone is potentially a traitor to a cause. Hope is dim. It reminds me a lot of the ways that our kind of fandom has made Lord of the Rings into this really dark, hard, awful world with such not even faint glimmers of hope, which would have horrified Tolkien.
Oh, indeed.
That's kind of how the fandom has told those stories.
Yes. Yeah. It sounds like this game, which I haven't played, but from what you're comparing it to, it sounds sort of bleak and hopeless. Is that right? Or hope is hard to come by?
I was just playing through. Yeah, there's individuals. There's deities. There's 12 gods who supposedly help, but right now the stories are about how they've been misused, and their powers are used for evil through these rings as opposed to for good. There are characters who there's one character who's the Flame Guard, and his hope is a really hard fought one, and but he's also suspect at the same time of like, well, maybe he's the one who's pulling all the strings and whatnot. So there is hope, and it's usually found in in connections with friends or in small groups. There's hope in building this town up again, but the building of the town is kind of like surprising about how hopeful it
Okay.
is. The rest of the game just seems like such a
Uh-huh.
downer.
Interesting, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the cozy games that I've been playing are kind of that way too. So anything that I've been playing that has any kind of town building component seems to be like, well, this is my little place of like, it's a haven, and the rest of the world is crumbling around me. I tried playing, I played Harvestella, and that game is certainly
Aha.
apocalyptic, but I've got my farm, and that's nice, and I'm helping people out, and I've been playing Cozy Grove, which is, a cozy game, and I'm helping these spirits come to terms with these agonies that they, had in
Mm,
life so that they can move on to, the next world or whatever, but, like, it's dark.
interesting.
There's a lot of
Cozy
trauma
and
that
yet
goes
dark.
on.
Huh.
Right, and so I haven't played, like, I don't know, some of the other more popular cozy games that
Yeah.
Harvest Moon or, things like that. Maybe those ones aren't dark, but the ones that I pick up seem to always happen to be, like, just, "Well, we're building a town, and this is great, and we can deliver our vegetables to people, and that will bring light to the world." Even though, there's this warlord
Oh,
bearing down on
man.
us and corruption
Okay.
and
Well,
I don't
yeah,
know.
the light amidst the dark, the candle in the dark, maybe that's the idea?
Sure, and it's a little
Yeah.
Tolkienian, I guess. Sam has his garden even
Right.
though, there's the orcs and
Right, right.
things, but
But how much
it's hard to see that as a
I see,
balance.
right. Yeah, does the bleak tone overwhelm the hopeful and cozy parts?
Well, the good thing is with these games and with most role-playing games, I think, most, there's no timer. So I could spend 70 hours farming, you
Uh-huh.
know, and just ignore the threats outside because that's not a problem until I need to go out and collect more pumpkin seeds
I
or
see.
whatever it is I need, you know? And then I have to face the facts that, yes, the world is terrible out there, but then I go back to my
Okay,
farm,
that's
you know?
interesting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and for the most part, at the end of the games, there's some, awful warlord or some dark spirit that you need to beat, and you return hope to the world, even if it's for a little bit, except for a notable game that was lauded as wonderful and awesome indie game last year.
It is a good
I
It's
game.
a
know what you're
great
talking
game,
about.
but it's
I
Wonderful.
know
so
exactly what you're talking
Classic
about.
gameplay. It's hard and devastating, and sometimes we need that, but man, a little bit of closure would have been nice.
one person
Yeah,
being
that
happy.
couldn't one person be
Expedition
happy?
33.
Yes, it was Expedition
Yes,
33.
I thought so.
Wonderful game, great
Music is
music.
amazing. I highly recommend everyone play it. Just don't look for a
Don't
rainbow.
right.
Yeah, so I'll have a
Have
puppy
a
with you.
puppy.
You
Yeah,
play it with a puppy.
yeah,
Well, I wonder,
yes.
it's interesting how it's possible to tell a story, in which there are overwhelming odds gathering darkness and, a kind of heroic resistance against that gathering darkness that nevertheless doesn't feel like the overwhelming tone is dark and depressing. Final Fantasy VI.
You're gonna love Final Fantasy
Yes, right.
6.
See, that's what yes. Yes.
I wanna say so many
Oh,
things right
man. Well,
now, but
you're
you're
not
in the
just
middle
you're
of
not
it.
just protecting me, you're protecting all our listeners who haven't played it and who no doubt hearing our recommendation of it will go out and play it. But yeah, I think it manages to convey, I mean, and it's a side topic maybe for another time, how brilliantly it is that you can convey so much with so little dialogue.
Mhm.
But it conveys very well the sense of this empire that is taking over one kingdom after another. Everything is falling to the empire, and the main characters are part of this resistance group. It does it often very well with very subtle touches. Like I was struck by in one town, you speak to this girl who's just there in the town, and she's pondering aloud whether she should go home before the war comes to this town too. And, evidently she's not from this town. She wants to get out before war comes to it. The next time you check in on that town, it's already fallen. It's been conquered, and you're playing a character who's sneaking around, playing Locke. You find her again in a mansion that's been sort of taken over by the Empire's forces and is being used as their base of operations, and you speak to her, and that's all she says in this just almost crushingly defeated, matter-of-fact voice. The Empire has set up base in this mansion and is making it their headquarters. Like, she just sounds totally, like,
Mhm.
defeated in the matter-of-factness with which she says this. And so you're like, "Well, I guess you didn't get out before." So touches like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
very, very realistic. Still, you wouldn't say, would you, that the overall tone, at least so far in the game, is bleak. The overall tone is still of these people who are becoming friends or who are already friends. The main
Mm.
character, who feels friendless and full of doubt, kind of coming to forge this friendship. And there's uh this wonderful sense of well, okay, I don't I'll exemplify it by this scene. This same Locke character, he sets free somebody from prison who is a former general of the Empire who apparently has decided the Empire's gone too far and rebelled against the Empire, and she's set for execution. She finds out when he rescues her that he's part of this resistance movement. And she says something like, "You would just let me join you? You'll just let me go with you?" And he's like, "Of course." And that kind of exemplifies, I think, the spirit of the heroes in this game, at least again thus
Mm.
far. It's this kind of open and welcoming, and there's something very positive and upbeat about that. Like, "Hey, look, I'm not going to question
Num
you.
num.
You need help, and I'm going to help you. And if you want to come with me to keep safe, we'll do that." And she's kind of just so surprised, but that I'm your former enemy in all of this. So that's a lot to say, maybe just that the game presents dire situation, a world kind of falling apart, and even a desperate struggle on the part of the heroes, but nevertheless doesn't really feel like, oh man, this is really depressing to play. It's much more uplifting and affirmative than that.
And I think that's one of the things that Octopath Traveler is it walks a very fine line between everything falling apart and there being some amount of
Mhm.
peace or at least hope. The storyline that I just played through, like the line of hope is just like razor
Mm.
thin. But also there's images of pastoral
Mhm.
hominess that not just in the town that you're building, but in some of the towns that you're
Mm.
visiting. You visit this place called Clearbrook, which is from the first game, and it's just this little, like, maybe 6, 7, 8 houses just along a river, and the people who you talk to have these, like, beautiful little lives that they're living away from all of the horror and the
Mm.
war and whatnot. And of course, they're probably touched by it too, and in some ways they are, with brigands coming around or people you have to fight off. But even still, there's still that hominess and helping one another
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Well, so when Joseph was waxing poetic about Final Fantasy VI and the sense of hope in that game, I was thinking of the next installment of Final Fantasy,
Right.
how hope isn't really it's weird. I mean, a big corporation is destroying the world and sucking the life force out of it.
So Final Fantasy VII.
Meteors. Yes,
That sounds dire.
it's
Yeah, I was gonna say, is
bad.
this I'm trying to remember what I've read about the general ups and downs of the series. Is 7 kind of considered a decline, misstep?
No, 7 is that there are many who I think maybe never played 6, but who think that 7 is a
Okay. So
pinnacle.
7 is very beloved,
Yeah,
I see. I see.
It is, and it is a
Oh,
very good
okay.
game. So I
I
don't
see.
wanna,
Okay.
like, speak badly of it, and it's been, remade, it's being remade and
Okay.
re-released and all that stuff, and it's different now and
So
whatever, but,
so it's
like,
kinda
it's
bleak, though? I see.
yes.
there's the remake really, I think, lifts up a number of the hopeful parts, and it's hopeful in some of its humor and in some of the relationships that people have that are difficult, like the relationship between the main character and one of the main female leads, which Cloud and Tifa. There's difficulty between them. They're childhood friends. Something has happened, but you don't really know what it
Mm.
is, and it has to do with Cloud being I mean, his name is Cloud Strife, I mean, for him being
Alright,
Cloud
okay,
Strife.
yes.
Right.
But there's a plucky, hope
Mhm.
to it. But there's something about the cast of Final Fantasy VI that I feel like they bond together
Yes.
in this
Mhm.
really amazing way. And that you have to wait till the second half of the game, which is a very different type
Hmm,
of game, or at least a different type of
okay.
story in Final Fantasy VI, where it really feels like the heroes going up against this horrible evil in the world that's even worse than what is in the beginning of the game.
Well, the bonds pay off.
Yeah,
Ah,
that's the
okay,
way
the
to put
You
it.
bonds they
know,
have
like
forged, yeah.
yeah, yeah, whereas in, Final Fantasy VII, maybe there's hope, but there's no optimism, I feel like.
Interesting, yes. That's a helpful distinction, right.
I'm not sure what it means. I feel like it is a
Yes, oh, yeah,
distinction.
well, right, I think you
They want something
yes.
better, but they can't
Right,
count
yes,
on it or
absolutely right,
something.
right. The hope you could hope for something better, yearn for something better, but not be counting on it, right. Yeah.
The characters in Final Fantasy VI are fighting for people. They're fighting for the people in the towns that you meet, like you mentioned.
Mm,
They're fighting for towns to be, for towns to be liberated from the Empire, and whatnot. Whereas Final Fantasy VII is such a more personal story where you're looking for or the characters are looking for personal
Mhm.
freedom, for personal liberation from things. And yeah, you're fighting against this huge corporation that you eventually have a similar goal, defeating Sephiroth and defeating the forces that he's unleashed. But you never got the sense that you're fighting for the people, that you're part of and you are part of a resistance group in the beginning of 7,
mm.
but it's hard because they're terrorists. They're bombing
Yeah.
places and stuff like that. Whereas, Locke is going and trying to, what does he do in South Figaro? Like he like
Well, yeah,
slows them
he's
down.
gotta
I
slow
think
down
that's what
their
it is.
efforts, right, and which
Yeah.
apparently he, I guess, is relatively successful at, gives his friends time to escape, but then, yeah, he has to escape the town himself where he's been kinda doing unexplained subversive activities.
Mhm.
Right, but clearly not causing
No, no, clearly
explosions.
not. Right, that's
He's
right.
it's
Right, we're
small
not told what
things.
he does, but it sounds highly
Right.
unlikely that he would be doing anything unethical, and not taking on
No, he's a
right, that's
sweetheart.
right, oh, yeah, he seems like a sweetheart, he's a total
Well,
Is.
he's a treasure hunter,
right,
not a
as he keeps
thief.
reminding people.
Yes, and I noticed that they did not include the original line that you sent us a picture of, like, "Call me a treasure hunter or else."
But that's the
In the
original.
original no, that's the one you sent to us in the Pixel remaster. The original is, "Call me a treasure hunter, I'll rip your lungs out."
Not as much of a
No, okay,
No.
sweetheart.
not a wow, well, no, and I think actually what I sent you, that scene, I think he said, what is he saw he said, "Now that's just plain rude. I'm a treasure hunter.
Yeah,
That's
that's
just
right.
plain rude. That's scaled down from 'I'll rip your lungs out.'"
But who knows what the actual
I know, right,
Japanese
I'd be
was? I mean,
curious
they
to
were all
know now.
translated by that one
Yeah,
guy,
well, and
and
Probably like
I think it's
"Kitsune
one of
shimasu."
the I think it's one of the noble things about it that you can't imagine him using the tactics of the Empire against the Empire, and I think that's one of the
right.
things that contributes to, uh a spirit or a this sort of spirit of hope and goodness that kind of permeates the game is their refusal to do
And
that. A more, I think, grimdark type of story would say, "Yeah, we're gonna have to go that route," and I think that can be done well, or, for Star Wars, did it pretty well, but in ways that
and
sometimes left me really disturbed. The whole route of, we might have to use the tactics of the enemy to defeat the enemy. The ends will justify the means.
yeah.
I kinda tend to agree more with Tolkien's characters where, Gandalf says, "You can't use the tools of the enemy to defeat the enemy," and I told you guys about this already, I know, but I was really struck by when Tara she's the only, for those who might not know the story, she can do magic, which is a rare and exceptional thing. The Resistance wants her to use magic. She's full of a kind of sense of guilt and shame, plus also amnesia because the Empire, used her as a slave and erased her memory. And she's really reticent about joining the Resistance and using her magic. You get a sense that she herself feels uncomfortable with her own power. And one of the kings whose kingdoms has been conquered now and is part of the resistance, he tells her, "We're not going to make you do anything. Like, to try to use you as a tool in our war against the empire would be no different than how the empire had used you. They used you as a slave. We're going to give you free choice, the choice to do this." And you could imagine somebody saying, "Oh, that's no way to win a war. You've got this tool, you need to use it." But that's not the ethics, the moral framework of this game, which I think is
Yeah.
part of what lends it that goodness that we're in hopefulness that we're talking about.
So one thing that makes me think of, is Christianity say that God used death, which was kind of the enemy's tool, in order to achieve salvation. Is that using the
That's
enemy's
interesting.
tool, or is that
That is really interesting. Or maybe is it showing that all tools are God's tools, and you thought
for sure?
you know, the powers of evil may have thought this was their tool, but actually, it's actually, servant to even that is servant to God himself?
It's kind of taking back
Yes,
death
right.
from as opposed to defeating death.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah, that is very interesting, and that, this kinda it's like, again, to cite Tolkien, his idea, the elves in his fiction understand what humankind really can't, that death is meant to be this gift, and that, the nature of things as they are makes, humankind find it a bitter pill to swallow, but from another point of view, it's just this kind of necessary thing that God has actually given us as a release from the world of sorrow and pain. Yeah. So it's God kind of saying, yeah, this actually is something that's not, an instrument of terror. That's very interesting. Now
Well,
Yeah,
we're
well,
musing
that's
now, we're
um,
contemplating.
now we're musing. Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
Think about this.
Yeah,
Part 2.
yes, yes, yes. We'll continue on later with that one. Yes. Wow, that just goes in totally different directions. I'm thinking of like Valkyrie profile, in which you're a Valkyrie and Ragnarok is about to happen, and you get all these little vignettes of people in their last moments, whether they're defending someone, whether they're just fighting because there's a monster in front of them, whether they've been doing things wrong or hiding away, and suddenly they've been found out. But you're in the last moment, and in these last moments, suddenly Valkyrie comes, Lenneth Valkyrie, and fights alongside them, but they die, and they become Einherjar, and every single chapter you have to send one of the Einherjar to Valhalla to fight in Ragnarok, but the others stay with you to continue to defeat the forces of
Mm,
evil in the world. And that's kind of, I mean, that's where my mind went immediately, thinking about video games and death and using death and whatnot. But that's also a different narrative. That's also a different narrative about death. It's that death, the use of death is heroism, further heroism that can survive it. I wonder how the Norse would actually think of that.
yeah. Well, I think the Norse concept was in many ways you have to kinda it's a sort of odd heroic culture where losing is the best way to show what you're really made of, because the ultimate way to lose is to die, and if you can show that you die without fear, paradoxically, you have to lose the fight to really show what you're made of. I can see
Mm.
you're eager to keep your life is an insult in a Norse saga, like, you look really eager to survive.
No, I would love to be there when if there were just someone who was explaining Christ on the cross to them,
Yeah.
like, eager to die,
Yeah.
and then of course there's the dream of the Rood where doesn't like Jesus
Yeah.
charge
Right.
towards the cross and
Right.
He's a hero.
leap up on
Yeah,
top
put
of it and
himself
like
on it,
almost
yeah, he ascends the
yeah.
Yeah.
cross, puts himself there, right, this Anglo-Saxon poem, yeah. Yeah, actually, is it I bet there was something about, missionary efforts to the Norse who did, eventually all accept Christianity. I there is something about you wonder about how that resonated with them, right? The willing acceptance of death as a sign of heroic spirit and of valor and courage. Yeah, that must have resonated.
It didn't necessarily lead to a belief in the kindness and humility
No, I
of
think that
God.
had to come later.
That's a
I
good
think that had
later.
to come later,
We were just
yeah.
reading Psalm 131, in which I can't remember it off the top of my head. I told my parishioners to memorize it. Now I can't remember it. But
Do any of your
it's
parishioners listen to this podcast by any chance?
hello, parishioners. I know there is at least
He's just
one.
confessed that he himself has not memorized this psalm. Okay, not
Not
yet,
yet.
right, fair enough, fair enough.
Not yet, not yet. But it's about, the humility of the praise. It's one of the Psalms of Ascent. It's the humility, the humble face that we wear towards God. It's like a weaned child on its mother's breast, which is
But
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
yes.
Right, that's not how often you think
And
of
as
Christ, right?
yeah, no, no, not when I think of Jesus like that often, but not I don't know if the Norse
Right,
would.
right, well, that was hard. Well, and it can be hard for people in the modern world to accept this idea, and the very fact that we struggle to accept it or that humankind at different times struggles to accept it, ought to be a sign that there's something going on there, because it only stands to reason that certain things about God would just be totally contrary to our expectations, including the notion of him as sort of meek and mild and gentle and humble, that that's how he lived, and that what is kind of, what he valued in his time on earth.
You will, and I can't say much about this, but you will love Tara's story.
I already love Tara's
The way
story.
Tara's story is known. I mean,
Well, you will
you will love it. You will. You have no choice, Joseph. But just the direction it goes is, I mean, I don't think it's giving anything away that she continues to fight, but the way she gets there is so beautiful and so, I think, realistic to just, I mean, honest about human emotions and human ways and struggle. Where she finds her purpose is just absolutely magnificent. As a kid, I didn't understand it. And when I played it in high school, I guess middle
Mm,
school, maybe. I was 12 when it
mm.
came out. I was kind of frustrated with where her story went.
Interesting.
I didn't like it.
Interesting.
And I liked other character stories. I liked Celis's story a lot. I liked Edgar's story.
also good stories.
Also good
Like,
stories.
liking those isn't a sign of immaturity.
No.
That's just
But you can tell there's a level of maturity you have to really approach Tara's
Interesting.
story, and it's really
Yeah,
cool.
right. So far, right. So far, she has been my favorite character. I mean, if anything, when now Celis has come on the scene, and Locke even says, like, who rescues her, he's like, "You remind me of someone." Let's just kind of leave it at that. Anything? Yeah, are you thinking of Tara? And I was kind of like, "Yeah, you remind me of someone too. You're a little bit your backstory so far has very Tara vibes, and even your sprite seems to be Tara's sprite, but with colors swapped around." So I am hopeful that her story develops very differently than Tara's.
Well,
yes.
'Cause
My goodness, yes.
just get ready.
No, don't.
All right, so you're
Don't
giving
just
all right,
get ready.
yeah,
That's all you
get
get.
ready. I love this. I love saying things to the 2 of you guys about, like, "I wonder if this'll happen in the story," or "Wonder," and you guys just on the edge
Oh,
of your seats, you have to resist telling me, like, "Oh, you have no
so
idea, Joseph."
hard.
That's good. I'm glad. I'm glad.
Well,
Such a good game.
there's some people out there, and if you are one of these people, listeners, please forgive me, but people who like champion themselves because they've never seen Star
Yeah,
Wars.
right.
And now I am married to someone who loves the fact that she doesn't like popular things.
It's true.
And it's gotten so bad
I
that
don't
that
listen just because they're popular,
Or
okay?
because they're
Like,
unpopular.
something is popular, I'm immediately skeptical, and then after, like, a decade of it being vetted, then I'm willing to give it a try, but that's how it is.
but
Well,
so there's these kind of never Star
Yes.
Wars people, like,
that's not
just
me.
that's
That's
not
not
me.
me. I watch
I
Star
find
Wars.
it's
It
fitting.
was for her for Star Trek.
Start yes.
Helene was like, "No Star Trek," when we first met. I said, "You gotta Next
Yeah.
Generation. I mean, come on."
I know.
I didn't foresee that she would like Geordi the best.
Really?
Yeah, I
He's so cute.
that makes sense.
Poor
This makes sense
Jordy.
to me.
He made some
Yeah.
unfortunate choices
He did make
on
some.
the holodeck,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it's okay.
Wouldn't
That's
we
okay.
all? Wouldn't we all?
Lock the door when you're with your made up,
Yeah, really.
person who's
Still alive.
still
Well,
alive and could walk in the
No,
door.
that's problematic. It really
yeah.
is. I feel like Jordy Jordy has other virtues.
Yes, yes.
Besides that.
But Helene overcame that.
Right, okay.
But
She overcame her
Helene
her her
overcame
reticence about
her
Star Trek.
dissatisfaction with
Yeah.
Star Trek.
That's true.
But I've spoken to some people. I'm like, I think you would really like Star Wars. I mean, this is a really, really good series. It's a good world. And I've met some people who just say, absolutely not. No way. I don't want to get into it. For whatever reason. The one thing I appreciate about you, Joseph, and you've in other places, not thinking about yourself, linked this to maturity, is that your openness to things that you don't know about. And I think that maybe I'm thinking about some of the things I'm doing with my ministry right now, that there's an upcoming event that I'm helping to organize where a bunch of different people from different religions and faith backgrounds and whatnot are getting together, and we're just going to share ways that we tell our story. And I'm just really looking forward
Yeah.
to this. We used to do it. This is Interfaith Works. It's going through them, and women transcending boundaries. And they did it before COVID, and now they're doing it again. And I have the pleasure to be helping organize things, and I'm not a great organizer, but I'm doing my best. There's this sense of wonder at the world, the sense of wonder for these video games that are just so old, but so solid
Yes.
and good to have. You know, Gwendolyn and I are we put in this game called Jade Cocoon, which is distributed or published in the US by Crave. I thought and it's just like Crave didn't make anything else that I could
Never heard of that.
never heard of Crave.
Yeah.
And but it's this weird, wacky game that has Studio Ghibli vibes. One of the artists from Studio Ghibli has done it. And it's at a time where, you know, it's PlayStation 1. They didn't have the DualShock controllers, so you use the D-pad to, like, forward always goes forward no matter which way you're turned, and then the arrow the left and right turn your character, and it's so hard to
Wow.
navigate anything. But it's so much
Yeah.
fun to get into this old game in the old way. I mean, everything's pixelated and blurry and
kind of jumpy.
there's a, you know, one character, the character's mother, who no matter when she speaks, like halfway through her sentences, like the sound just gets
Wow.
garbled, and it just freezes for a moment and then keeps on going. There's so many wonderful corners of the
Yes.
world to
Yeah.
explore.
There are riches out there.
There really are.
And it's important to remember that when times get bleak. So go back to your little
Right.
garden and find some
Yep.
good veggies and bring them to your
Yes.
neighbor and
And seek out.
bring light to the world
Yes,
that
yeah,
way.
and seek out those things that are wonderful and beautiful or funny or good in
Mhm.
some way, right, in whatever corners you may not have looked before, right?
Yeah.
And getting these in yeah, I mean, we live in a period of absolute wealth of stuff because there's new stuff in the fields that we like to talk about on this podcast continues to be made that's terrific. There's a wealth of old stuff. There are things that, you know, talking to you guys in the realm of video games and manga that I've just never heard of. And I'll think, I can't believe they made a game about this or a comic about this. There are many corners to explore. Yeah. Filled with
Mhm.
good stuff. Because we've got, you know, I mean, we've got a massive, massive backlog, as it were, of centuries and centuries of material, even just the last century produced, you know, tons of
Yeah.
stuff. It helps to be open to the goodness of the relatively new media. I mean, by new media, I mean things that are not super new, but new compared to things like, you know, literature or even film. Even film is older as an art form than video games. And if your kind of idea is, well, that kind of stuff is, I mean, that's silly. That's not real nourishing, you know, forms of art. Things like video games, you're cutting yourself off from a lot.
Fine, I'll have an open mind to things that are here. You've convinced me, both
Wow,
of
all
you.
right. I wasn't even trying.
Ah, it's glorious. Well, now we're off to watch Stranger Things, which Helene has put her foot down that she'll never
Oh,
watch because
So I haven't put my foot down. It's just I just I I liked D&D before it was
right, yeah,
cool, you
right.
know? That's all.
I do have to say, I will be real, I've never seen Stranger Things, so I will be very interested to hear your
I
perspective
heard it's
on it.
I've heard it's
Yeah,
amazing. I've heard that the ending is I've heard many things about the
really.
ending
Was
that
it was it
I
one
don't
of
know.
those miss the target kind of endings that so many series have? Oh, okay.
No, no, I've heard
Oh, okay.
favorable things about the
Excellent,
ending,
excellent.
but vaguely because people don't wanna spoil it
Well,
for me, which
that's
I
good of them,
appreciate.
that's right. That's certainly good.
You're gonna love Tara's
Well, I
story.
know, right, well, and I've spoken on a previous episode of this show about my growing perler bead collection, and my son and I one of my sons and I sat down
Ooh.
over the weekend and did, Final Fantasy VI perler beads. Mine was Terra,
Mm,
his was Celis,
very good.
so I know.
interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think on this positive note, we should add
Yeah.
the glorious corners of the world, the wonder of it, God's good
Mhm.
creation that we are happily invited into co-creating
Yes.
with Him. It's just it's a grace
It
and a
is a grace
glory.
and a glory. I agree. And, you know, if we can have some, if our podcast can have some website at some point devoted to displaying pictures of my perler bead collection of video game characters, I think it will be an even more glorious world.
That's the first thing we would put on that webpage.
I mean, I notice Helene is refraining from saying that, you know, I got this idea from her.
I
She's
am
already designed and made a bunch of video game perler beads. When I was last at your house, I was like, why am I not doing this?
Yeah.
Why are you?
Why wasn't I doing it all this time? Right. And now I am.
Yeah, you are. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. And thank you for listening. And God bless.
God bless
you all.
Bye.
Bye.
And I am still Joseph Leake.
I'm Helene Hannon.
I guess I'm still Tim Hannon, but I don't know if I want to still be Tim Hannon. Can I change? Can I be Joseph Leake today?
No. You can be someone else, but you can't be me.